Are you able to share?
It's initializing.
Initializing, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so as as the one for Amondi is still initializing for setup, Joy, what was your experience? Did you set up?
Yeah, I have set it up.
Sorry, let's come again.
Hey, okay. I said I was able to set it up today.
All right, good. That's okay. Yeah, so Fiona, welcome. There's an avatar here called user. Who could it be? It's not showing the name.
So I think it's a certain lady called Molly. I'm trying to rush with her and see whether it's her.
Who? Oh, okay.
Molly,
And also call, okay, then call Victoria. She's the only one now we are waiting for.
Oh, Victoria, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amondi, did it manage so that we show you then?
Yes, it did.
Okay, then just share your screen. Good. And now you're okay, you're set. Yeah.
My screen is already sharing.
Yeah, I can see. So this is what we want. This is all you need to have.
Okay.
Yeah, so just have it on standby. So we'll go to the when we reach the stage where we prompt you to go there, then yeah, it will be good to go.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope everyone has this screen that Philinda has shared. Everyone has it on their machines. It's been able to show that. All right. Yeah, so I think that's the first part. So I want to formally start the session today, and I'd like to thank you for making time again to join us for this 12-week journey. So today is going to be day 1 of 12. So it's going to be an exciting journey ahead. A lot of things we've planned for you, different challenges, different tasks, a lot of excitement, discoveries. And I look forward to working with you this journey alongside the other instructors. Yeah, so as I mentioned in the previous session, our course primarily focuses on 3 verticals. So first vertical is to ensure that you have the technical skills for coding. So 80% of these sessions will be for practical coding. Yeah, so we are going to provide you with the data sets. And in way of providing you with the data sets, we've carefully selected data sets that are going to be relevant in your day-to-day work. So for instance, the most data set that we work with is the census data for 2019. So this census data has got key implications in different industries. And I'd like to just encourage you to read about the census. One of the things I'll do is I'll share with you the raw sector. There's what we call the sector. It was a sector, it was section 5, section 4 of that census report, yeah. So I'll be able to share that with you. Then you can be able to familiarize yourself with the narrative within that census report. The second thing that we'll be sharing with you is business problems. So if you come from an industry that is finance, you'll be able to share with you some finance data and use cases. if you come from the telco industry, we'll be able to share with you that as well. So just be on the lookout for use cases that are relevant to your application. Yeah. So that's going to be one of the things that we're going to look at. Then the third thing we're going to look at is projects. So every week you'll be assigned a project to do. So these projects are to help you heavy lift a lot of the theory that you've learned in class. So you can also tell us if you're already working on a project somewhere. Maybe if you're a consultant, you can tell us a project you're working on with your client. If you have a project you're doing within your department, you can bring on board that as a project in class that you can use for learning. Because you like to have applicability in this course, it's to give you that hands-on experience. Yeah, it's good to give you that hands-on experience of being able to learn and have clear application of that to your day-to-day work. Yeah. Then I did mention about the exam. So we will have an exam after each section. So the key basic questions that we'll set. Yeah, and then give you a link. I already have your emails, so we'll be generating a link to your emails that you'll be able to get notification when the exam is ready. And basically, it can take 20 to 30 minutes of your time. Yeah, for you to see that to see the questions. Yeah, but then remember, it's important for you to do that. So at least to test the application of what you've learned. Yeah. So as I mentioned, there'll be key resources shared in the course of this. We've put those resources in a portal. So I wanted us to go through the portals where you'll find the resources. Let me just try to open that link, then we can go there step by step, because I know we shared that link and I want to take you through to see where those resources are, so that it's important for you to navigate that portal with clear indication of where you're finding, what information you're finding where. So let me just do that. Yeah. Okay. Just a minute. So how many of you logged into the lab.predictive analytics and have set up an account already?
I have.
All right, that's good.
I have.
Who else? Thanks.
I have.
Good.
Yeah, I also managed to log in.
Good. Yeah, so
And
I think, yeah. So if you're getting stuck, just reach out and then we'll be able to finalize that step for you. But let me just very briefly take you through that portal, because that's where the resources are. Then we get on started with the coding. So when you come, this is the platform. You'll be able to see the sign in. I'll log in using your email. If you happen to forget your password, you can just reset. So that's what it is. Now we have these are the 3 courses that we have now, but we'll be focusing on Python. Yeah, so at a later stage, there'll be statistics. And for those ones wishing to pursue data engineering, also there's that. Now, when you come, the first place that we'd like you to spend more time is called resources. So when you come to resources, these are the steps that we'd like you to do. So just note this, so that when you go back to your, we can actually be doing it as we continue. So one of the things we do is you follow me on LinkedIn. So when you click this link, it will bring you to my LinkedIn page, and then just click follow. The reason why we put this there is so that you can be able to benefit from a lot of resources that we share on my personal branding side. Then the second thing that we do this is that once you need to change on your careers, you indicate that you're a data science trainee with the predictive analytics lab. So you follow me, and then also you follow predictive analytics lab page, and then when you tag it, when you say you're a data science trainee on predictive analytics lab, you'll start receiving notifications on your LinkedIn platform of people congratulating you, people sending you messages. So it's important that you do that, so that because your data science is 50% technical, then 50% branding. If you don't brand yourself with the right career title, and then most employers will misplace your talent, and then you'll also not be able to attract the right tools to your profile. So for example, you know about content recommendation systems. Yeah, so we have a lot of news, information, articles that are surrounding data science. Now, when you put your profile as a data scientist, you get to have those articles and those resources coming to your timeline. Yeah, so we always encourage our students to rebrand themselves on the portal, and then to be able to attract that right kind of content. And the other reason for that is you have continuous learning. So every time you go to LinkedIn, if there's an event somewhere, you'll find that notification on your timeline. Yeah, so they always use those algorithms of looking at your career and using it to brand, using it to generate content that matches what your interests are. Then also in terms of affiliating with the right people, yeah. So there are key people in this industry that you will need to follow. If you go to our homepage, you'll find a list of mentors. Yeah. So those mentors, let me just open the homepage. Lab, which is the same one. So here. Share again. So you remember this is where you log in. So when you scroll down, you'll see a link here that contains mentor support. Now, we carefully selected some key mentors who are there to help you in the journey that you are doing now. So they come from different industries. Yeah. So when you go there, you just click on any of them and then send them an invitation via LinkedIn. Yeah. So for instance, when you click here, it will take you to his LinkedIn page. Yeah. And so on and so forth. When you click on the next one, that way. So you follow them. So they're part of us, so they're able to give you free mentorship depending on which career background you come from. Okay. And then any question there so far? So the other thing, hands-on experience. So we'll be doing almost about 14 real-world projects and then developing your data science portfolio. I'd mentioned about career support, helping you get jobs and gigs. So either you can consult with us because we have a consulting unit which gets a lot of jobs from different industries, and we have also ongoing projects. So based on your strength, we can bring you on board to work on a project. And this is actually on commercial terms. Yeah, so this is purely an opportunity for you to showcase your skills so that we can be able to extend some of the opportunities which are coming across and continuously being generated by more companies continuing to adopt data science. Yeah, as I mentioned, we can also give you recommendation to your employer. Yeah, we have what you call a data science recruitment toolkit, yeah, which shows organizations how to recruit for data scientists, how to develop talent internally, how to do an organogram for a data science team. Yeah, so this, you can call us and connect us to your HR to be able to talk to them about it so that they're aware that the kind of certification that you're doing will enable you have a different kind of skill set. So the kind of work and the nature of department that you need to belong to should be different. Yeah. So we also have some master classes. So these ones, you'll find them under resources. I'll go back to them shortly. Yeah, but that's what that part is all about. So allow me to go back to the other resources, which is this here. Okay. So we have these platforms. So we have GitHub. GitHub is a repository for code. So those of you who have done programming before, you know that this is a hub for programmers. We use it because we find a lot of data sets there. And then at an advanced stage, you'll find some bit of models and algorithms there. So we encourage you to set up an account. So just click on this link, go set up an account, and send a screenshot of what you set up on the WhatsApp. Kaggle, the same. This is the go-to platform for data scientists. We use it a lot. First thing it has is data sets. So there are a lot of data sets that have been cleaned. So you'll notice that you spend a lot of work as a data scientist cleaning data. But because we have limited time for training you, we don't want to spend so much time cleaning data. So some projects will go and find already clean data in that platform and bring it for class, for learning. Then number two, we also have competitions that happen on this platform. So if you want to challenge yourself, go and learn how to compete. You can participate in competitions. Right now, there's so many competitions for COVID-19. You can learn a lot from those competitions. So we are the official partners for Kaggle in Kenya. Yeah, so there are a couple of competitions which they do organize globally, and they extend to us an opportunity to take data scientists. So last year, for example, I went to Dubai with 2 members of our lab to participate in a competition there. This year, the event was cancelled, but I think when the normalcy resumes, there's always an event in the US, there's an event in Europe, and in China, and then of course in Dubai. So go there, set up an account. This is a mandatory because when we reach visualizations, so like there are classes that we do them on Kaggle, yeah. Then the third thing that you learn on Kaggle is articles. So you read what other data scientists are writing, stories, learn how to frame problems. It's a very, very key resource. If you come for an interview to me and you say that you are a senior data scientist, all I'll ask you is your Kaggle account. I'll not even ask you questions. So I'll go to the Kaggle account and I look at what projects you've done before. So on the basis of those projects, then I can be able to know the level of superiority that you have in data science. And this actually has been exploited a lot by the first generation data scientists who you may not have had any certification from anywhere or any college or university to show that you have proficiency in data science. But from the projects you post on Kaggle, I can be able to be confident that yes, because of those projects being upvoted or being celebrated by other data scientists, which we call peer review. Because when you put a project there, other data scientists come and look at them and critique it. So that gives me as a recruiter an advantage, yeah, to know that you have excelled in that particular area. Now there's Data Science Central. This is also a very beautiful one as well. What does it do? So Data Science Central is a portal where news is published, and the particular place we like it is for jobs, yeah? So for instance, we'll open it. Yeah, you're able to see the Data Science Central screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So when you come here, you set up your account. Yeah, it's pretty much simple. Just sign in. You go, log in there. It takes you there. And then just jump straight to jobs. All these are stories, articles. But I wanted to show you one thing about jobs. And I'll show you the trick that you can be using when you are in this journey. Now, when you look for these jobs, so you can look for a job that is closer to what you like to be. So for example, this is a content data scientist at Apple. There's a software engineer at Google. machine learning platform engineer at PayPal, software engineer at HP. So these are very big tech companies, yeah? Project analysts, data science at Visa. So these are the kind of jobs which are coming up. So in Kenya, very soon you'll start seeing companies advertising for such jobs. So what you do is you start preparing yourself for those jobs. So for instance, let's look at this. What do they need? Project analyst, data science. So you come and see, if you want to be a project analyst for data science projects, these are the qualifications I need. Yeah, so you look at the certification requirements, then qualifications. And sometimes you might be doubting, why are we doing this course? So there's no job that you'll find that doesn't ask you to have a Python certification. You see what I've highlighted there? All the jobs will always have Python. So you can also use this to cross-check whether what we're teaching you is relevant outside there based on what employers are looking for. So this is a foundational course. You'll be able to fit anywhere. You can actually go and do a PhD right after this. We've had almost about 15 guys who are even doing their PhDs who we've trained in our lab. And they found our training very, very suitable in helping them finish their PhD projects. So you can also see what I told you in the first session. You can see you don't need to have a degree in computer science or mathematics to be here. You can see someone with a business administration, someone with the operation research, there's an economist. All these are first degrees that are required for applying for these jobs. Yeah, so the additional skills will come down here, but the first degree, it doesn't really matter. So don't feel restrained that, oh, I didn't study computer science. No, you can learn, and as you'll see, it's going to be a very easy and seamless experience for you to learn. Yeah, so it's very easy to use. You can even create a resume, yeah, explore jobs. Yeah, so just feel free to interact with it, play around with it the way you wish to discover a lot more. And then also the article side. So if you like reading or writing articles, just choose any part here. Yeah. And they share a lot of resources. So you can see free books. Yeah. When you come here, you can even download them. They're free books, over 1,000 books. So whatever you want to become will be determined by your curiosity. Yeah. So we have deep learning and computer vision in CNN. Yeah. CNN is convolutional network. So this one will teach you in the intermediate class. Getting started with TensorFlow. All these are books, and most of these books are very current. Yeah, so you find books which are written as even as 2000. Yeah, so this community is around sharing information. So feel free to spend a lot of time there. I know right now it's COVID, we are working from home. You may be having a bit more time than usual. So use your time usefully by learning the right things. So we've only created this portal to help you learn the right things. Yeah. So there's also another one here. Maybe I can show you Kaggle so that you don't get stuck. So this is what I'm talking about, Kaggle. These are the competitions. You'll come here and register for competition. You just click. Yeah. So I'll need to sign in so that you can even sign in with Google, but I have my account activated. So it's a very easy, seamless sign-in procedure. So when you sign in, there you go. So you find there's home, there's competition, there's data, there's notebooks, there are discussions, there are courses. Yeah, it's a lot more things. There are even exams. So we, as a licensed partner, we offer some of these exams to you. Yeah, you can see. So these are the projects, for example, I've worked on. So there's a 2 Sigma market. There's a predicting employee kernel, exploring. So you can see the projects that I've worked on. So when I'm going to pitch for a job somewhere, I just need to show this, then the guys will be like, oh, this is what his specialty is. Yeah, so these are the help us better understand COVID. So you can see view contributions. So when you come here, you find guys who are participating in these competitions. Literature review, someone explaining what the project is. Yeah, tools. You can see the tools which are used. There's search engines, COVID. We'll teach you about these things, and then data sets. Yeah, so these are different types of data. You'll find some guys have collected and they've put them together. They're clean. All you need to do is just plug in search and using it to analyze, and then you're good to go. Yeah. So one thing that I didn't tell you about this. So we use Cargo, for example. I talked last time. I talked briefly about Excel and Python. So Fiona will be telling you the details about Python. Yeah. So Python is a Excel on steroids. So it helps you process structured and unstructured data and massive data. But then again, it also has its limitations. Yeah. So there's something we call GPUs, graphic processing units. So the GPUs have the processing speed that you need to use to compute some certain algorithms. Now, when you're using Python, some algorithms use a lot of power. So you will not have enough power in the Python script. So we bring those models here on Cargo. Yeah. So when you come to Cargo, you'll find different notebooks. So the same way you'll be doing it in Jupyter, you can also do it here. Yeah. And you can write your code here as well. Yeah. So you can use Python. If you're good in R, you can use R. Yeah. So these are things that we'll be showing you, but for now, it's just a sneak preview that you can see there. Yeah. Any questions so far? Yeah. So I hope you're also trying to set up these accounts as we continue talking, but you have the entire time to do it. Then there's KD Nuggets. So KD Nuggets is also just like Data Science Central. Yeah. You'll find a lot of resources here, latest posts, latest courses, education, news, machine learning. So depending on where your interest is. Yeah, so just same thing, create an account, enjoy the readings, and also publish. One important thing about data science, remember, is the skill of communication. So you need to be able to articulate yourself and tell stories. So I'm encouraging you to start publishing stories. I'm encouraging you to start working on projects and sharing them on these platforms, as long as it doesn't have data that's sensitive. So don't go and pick your data from your office, sensitive work information to put on these platforms, no. But you can anonymize some data from some project. And that's why we use census data, because census data is generic, belongs to the government. So you can be able to put those projects here. Even here, you'll find jobs as well. And jobs is a very critical place for you to be. You can be going for interviews, not that you want that job, but just to test yourself. Are you able to convince an employer? What is your value? Yeah, so don't wait for you to be looking for a job to start going for interviews. No, we encourage you to start looking for interviews quite a lot. It's part of the journey. You get to learn a lot from those interviews, yeah? And also you get to influence interviewers to interview in the right way. Yeah, so this one is mostly Indian and the US, but we don't have anything local. But you go to our website, we have a portal for careers. So we put some local jobs there. Yeah, so I told you we have a consulting firm that does recruitment for companies. So you'll benefit from that as well. So the next thing is Slack. So we stopped using this. Oh, sorry, there's Medium. This is very general. I'm sure you've seen articles from Medium. So this is for you to just write. Medium has become a platform for people to go and write their personal experiences. Yeah. For example, when Jeff Bezos' phone was hacked, he went and wrote about that whole experience on Medium. So it's you can go there to write your personal experiences, your personal journey, testimonials, and just to get yourself to be branded and increase your SEO. You know what SEO is? Search engine optimization. Yeah. Have you ever tried to Google yourself? What do people see when they Google you? So you can just try and see what are you known for outside there. So when you Google me, for example, the stories that will come there from data science. Yeah. You see the business daily. Yeah, you see the news articles and news interviews that have appeared. Yeah, the stories that have published in other websites and conferences and events that have participated. So to increase your digital footprint, we encourage you to create these profiles and have some minimal presence there. Don't just set up an account on Medium and leave it blank. No, go set up and write a story and share it on your Facebook. So it increases your digital footprint. Yeah, so these are what makes it easy for you to get recognized out there and build your own brand. Yeah, so these are tricks that no one will tell you. You might learn code for even 30 years, but unless you do some of these things, you may not get the full value of your investment. Yeah, there are a lot of guys out there who know very little, but because of the hype they've created around themselves, they attract a lot of value. Yeah, so we don't want to take that for granted, and that's why we call it personal branding. So you need to also to be very strong in the personal branding side. Yeah, so I hope that's the key lesson that you've learned. And the second tab, these are key people you can follow. This is called DJ Patil. These are Twitter. You follow them on Twitter. So there's something called Twitter University. Nowadays, you can actually get a degree just by following the right people on Twitter because they share very contemporary views and articles. You'll find an author sharing some snippets of his book. You'll find conferences, live streaming. Yeah, so all these are key people that we've carefully selected who are going to be key people for you to learn from. So just click on each of them and follow them. You just come, for example, here you click, set up on LinkedIn, then you follow them. Yeah. Also here is a list of 50 data science influencers. There's the list. So when you come here, you follow these guys, you'll never go wrong in your knowledge network, LinkedIn. So we've compiled all this for you and make it easier for you to learn and excel. Then we come to more resources. So under these more resources, we have a comprehensive repository of ML materials. There's a reading of data scientists. These are books. So you'll find some books there. Yeah, very good for you to just download, read. We have the rights to share the books, so we use them for teaching. Yeah, so if you come and click on set logic and math, you'll see how algorithms are created. Yeah, so some of them are so advanced, so you don't scare yourself when you see unfamiliar things. Just remember that learning and knowledge always builds up in a hierarchy. There are also articles there you'll find. Yeah. So these KPIs, these are business side of things. So we also help you to do some run-of-the-mill analysis of business performance. For example, when you click here, you'll see sales and marketing KPIs. So even in the sales and marketing department, you can be able to measure the performance of your company just by keying in some key metrics. So these are engines we've developed in our lab, and we help businesses to measure some of those performances. So mostly we cover this in the master classes. Yeah. So all these are engines for surveys. So then there's more resources. Data science lifecycle. Yeah. So this is the 2019 merged volume 3. Yeah, you can download this. We have volume 4. Volume 4 is what we'll use. So I'll arrange to have it there also so that you can download. Yeah, for the sensors. And then there's also this resource. Sometimes you can be you just want some to listen. If you like listen to podcasts, yeah. So okay, it has an error here. I don't know why, but there's I'll share the link. You can listen to talk radio. It's a Python talk radio. Yeah, that's very, very enriching. So let me, my screen has stopped sharing. Let me just share it back. Any questions so far? So Fiona, you are getting ready. I'll be finishing in about 5 minutes, then you can start. Fiona?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay, fine. Yeah, then there is this side for coaching. This is mostly when I have one-on-one coaching sessions with you. Now we use some of these tools. So here we can test your IQ. Yeah, we can do placements, test your fitness to work. There are a couple of tools here which you can we use them in a scientific way. Then the other resources, then there are also assessments. Yeah, so like what type of learner are you? Yeah, so this kind of assessment you can be able to do. Are you a morning person? Are you an evening person? Just some very basic ways to understand yourself. And then master classes. So this, I mentioned to you that this course is a technical course, and there's the professional vertical as well. So when you come here, you'll find different courses which are relevant for your career. So if you're in supply chain, you'll find supply chain analytics. You can just download. If you're a CEO, you'll find a course for you. It's for HR. If you're in the telecommunication industry, you'll find a course for the telecommunication sector. Just click on it, see what it is about. So what we do now in these 12 weeks is we give you the tools which are going to enable you understand these trainings better. So these ones are always shorter trainings, but very straight to the point. Yeah, so that's what it is. Yeah, and then this documentary. So we are building a different platform. I'll share the link. We're just finalizing on the logins for that. So those platforms, but for now you can, like for example, this weekend, if you have some time after this class and you want to watch a movie, there are a few documentaries that we have put there. Yeah, so some on Netflix, there are some on YouTube. Yeah, but we have a collection of about 100 documentaries that we've put together that we use as a way of learning and understanding what machine learning, artificial intelligence is all about. Yep. Yeah, so this is the lab.predictive analytics. I wanted also to show you the documentary portal. Sorry, not the documentary, the glossary. Okay. Yeah, so sometimes you might be wanting to get some quick definitions. So we've put up these descriptions, yeah, where you can go and read quick definitions. Maybe you're going for an interview somewhere, you just want to refresh your mind on some of this. Yeah, or when you're reading somewhere, you want to know what this means. So you can come here and check. We are building up, we are still building it up. We keep adding new words, new terminologies to build up the vocabulary. Yeah, so feel free, this resource is there for you. So feel free to interact with it. And finally, we have the exams. So you'll come here and see an exam portal. So this, after Fiona's session, she'll set up an exam and send you a link where you're able to sit for that exam. Yeah, so for me as an admin, I can log in using this. So maybe I can show you what happens on this backend. So here we can be able to see how many students have sat for these exams. You can see the staff. Then exams added, there are 9 exams. I can show you the kind of exams which are here. Yeah, so these are the exams which have already been set up there. So these different classes have got different exams. So this was put up in March when the platform became active. There's a 30 minutes, 20 minutes, there's 1 hour, there's 1 hour, 30 minutes. There are also some general brain teasers exams. So for me here, I can view or I can edit. Yeah, so if I show you, for example, this is probably what you will be doing this week or maybe next week, depending on what content Fiona has for you. So you just see this list of questions, then answers. Yeah, you choose the purely objective. Yeah, just to test your memory and understanding of some of these things. Just the same way we used to do in school. Yeah, so what we do with this also, we compile the results and we give you a score that helps you to be accountable. There are also some challenges here you can participate. So maybe some teasers, brain teasers. What's the population of Kenya? Yeah, what's full of holes but can't hold water? So these are some gamifications we use maybe to make fun in class. So at the right time, you can do that. Yeah. All right, so that's it from me. I'm sure I've taken you through the key resources that you need. And I just know that we are still continuing to develop a lot of these platforms. We are working on a Moodle platform. Yeah, for now, we've put all these resources in a central location. Immediately after this, you'll find the recording of this session. And this is where you'll find it. So you'll come to meetings and go to recordings. So if you come to meetings here, maybe you don't want to log in using the link we've sent you on email or WhatsApp. You can come to the same website and you'll find a meeting going on. So for example, right now we have 2 classes going on. So there's this class, which is this one, so it's saying live. And then there's visualization with Plotly. So there's another class going on for the cohort 8. Yeah, then you can also see the previous classes that are done, but you cannot be able to listen to the recording. The recording is only for the class who attended. So for example, when you want to listen to previous recordings, you'll come and click recording. Yeah, you'll find them here. Yeah, completed. This is the introductory session we had 2 days ago. So you come, click there, and then you say play. So when you play, you'll be able to listen to the class. Okay, of course, by putting the password for that class. Yeah, so that's it. Any questions so far? Any questions? Are you good to go now? So I wanted to leave you in the able hands of Fiona. She can be able to take you through the remainder of the session, but then always feel free to interact with us at any time, whenever you need guidance. So if you need to use the lab, we said we are located on Westlands at Madonna House on the 1st floor. Yeah, so we have a good space there where you can work very quiet till when this working from home. Sometimes if you might feel like you want to work in a little bit different environment, just feel free to get in touch, then we can arrange how to give you access. Otherwise, yeah, so all the best and enjoy the journey. Yeah, and thank you for making the choice to start this journey with us. So Fiona, over to you. So I think Fiona is having some technical issue. Just give about 2 minutes as she sorts out her Wi-Fi. In the meantime, just be setting up the accounts from the link that I've shown you. Just feel free to continue that process. I'm here on standby. Just raise your hand if you need any question answered.
I have something to say. I think some of the guys reached out to me. They have done the Python installation successfully. I think some of you have not. I'm not sure whether you have it ready. So if you don't have it ready, you can share with us so that we can do the installation together here. You can share the screen if you have any challenges so that it can be installing as Fiona is ready. So anybody who does not have the Python installation, so Ochieng is set. Kevin had also shared his set, and Victoria and Molly. So what about Shem, Trevor, and Amondi? Are you guys ready? Shem, Trevor, Amondi. Okay. Who else? Trevor, Shem, you good? And Philida, you good? Philida, you good to go? All right, so I think you are good to go then. So as we wait for Fiona also, after every session, I'll be sharing the password for recordings because I think Zoom did some restriction of putting a password after every recording. So I'll be sharing with you the password in case you need to access the recordings later after the session.
Hi, we can hear you.
Work with Zuku, it's just sorry about that. So hi, I'm Fiona. I'll be taking you through introduction to Python. I got lost in the last few minutes as Timothy was finishing up. I hope that everyone has had Anaconda installed. Okay,
yes, they have them. Have it.
Okay, I think I'll take that as a yes. So introduction to Python. I'll take you through just the history of it for a bit to get where you're coming from before we get to the actual coding of it. So we have intro to Python. So what is Python? Python is basically just a programming language. It's a high-level programming language. High level means that you don't really have to care about compatibility with a system. you're more interested in giving instructions. And it's used across a wide range of domains. The things that are following here are the domains that are used, that Python is used in. For example, we have professional software developers, we have scientific developers, casual programmers. There are people who, for them, programming is just a hobby. And we have beginner programmers. Python is very good for beginner programmers because it's very simple and it's very intuitive, as opposed to other languages. If you have a programming background, Python should be a breeze. Even if you don't, it's going to be very simple. It's very intuitive. It doesn't have a lot of syntax problems. It should be very, very, very simple. So, okay, simply put, there's a couple of features that describe Python, but a few of them are it's an object-oriented language. I think we can discuss that a bit later. It's an interpreted, most of these things, we will definitely see them a bit later. So the first release of Python was released in 1991, and it was created by a guy called sijui kusoma hiyo jina, to be very honest. So it was created by that in 1991. Over the years, they've kept releasing versions as they've improved functionality, fixed bugs, etc., etc. So in 2018, Python 3.7 was released, and that is what we're going to be using. If you remember downloading Anaconda, so 3.7 is what we're going to be using. 3.8 was released last year and 3.9 is underway, but that's not really important. 3.7 is what is important to us. Some Python characteristics. It's open source, meaning you can load it and you can share it. Will mostly make sense if you have a programming background. I think I should you have a programming background, or rather, everyone just kindly give me your background. It will make this a bit easier for me so that I know how deep to go into details or just skim over.
So I have an engineering background, but I've done a bit of programming in Python.
Programming in Python, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Same here, just some basic understanding of Python, but not really used it for active development.
I have basic knowledge in Python with an engineering background.
Hello. I don't have any interaction with Python, but I've interacted with that, so maybe it will be a bit engaging with Python.
And my background is in mass communication, and I have no background in Python completely.
I just learned about Python in class, but nothing really deep and exhaustive.
really don't know what is going on.
Sienna?
I'm really sorry about that. I have my connection even my phone is having an issue. I don't know if they're trying to fix something or whatnot, but let's get back to it. A couple of you seem to have at least some brief intro to Python. That's good. So I think we can keep moving. So characteristics of Python, multi-paradigm, that means it can follow it follows more than one programming structure. That means Python follows both object-oriented and procedural programming. Object-oriented is about creating, rather modeling real-world objects that have attributes and methods. We're going to see this definitely as we keep going. That shouldn't be such a big issue. Python is multi-purpose. That means it can be used for very many things. It can be used for web development, web development, mobile development, 3D, whatever you want to do with Python, there's definitely something for it. It's cross-platform, meaning that you can run it on across different platforms, for example, Windows, Linux, and Mac. It's dynamically typed. We're going to see that a bit later. The only thing that is interesting, or rather not limiting, but what you have to look out for with Python is indentation. Indentation is very important in Python. It's going to raise errors if something is wrong, and errors in Python are also very simple to understand and to be able to know where it's coming from. It actually gives you the error, points you to where the error is, so debugging is much, much simpler, and there's garbage collection. After that, we have some language properties. We're likely to see that as we move along. Yeah, so these are the main things that we're going to be focusing on. As we use Python, we're going to be using libraries, especially because this is not a programming class, it's data science. We're going to learn how to use specific libraries that are built on Python, and that's why this class is a bit important. You need to understand the basic workings of Python, because all these libraries that we're going to learn are based on Python. So it's going to be a whole lot smoother to adjust. So we have as the scientific stack. A major feature of Python as an ecosystem is the availability of a large number of libraries and tools. We're going to see them. There are certain libraries that are labeled in the scientific stack, and these are mostly the libraries that we're actually going to encounter. So we have NumPy. NumPy in full is numerical Python, and this is the library that is used to perform arithmetic operations on data. So yeah, there's NumPy, which is numerical Python. We have SciPy, which is scientific Python. This is used, as we said, this is a scientific stack. We're going to see that in a bit. Matplotlib, this is a visualization library. So in the event you want to draw bar charts, pie charts, get some information from your data, which is going to definitely be a lot easier to see on a visual, you will use Matplotlib. If not Matplotlib, there is slightly more advanced, there are actually two more slightly advanced visualization libraries, that is Seaborn and Plotly. We're still going to see them, so no worries about that. We have PyTables. We will not likely encounter that, but it's good to have it, these PyTables. And the other very important one is Pandas. Pandas is built on NumPy. So you need to go through Introduction to Python, then NumPy, and then Pandas. And that is actually the route you're going to follow. So yeah, Pandas is built on NumPy, and it displays, okay, it works with data in a tabular form. So working with Pandas, if you worked with Excel, working with Pandas should be very, very, very simple. And if you have a basic introduction in Python as well, should be very, 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 very simple. I did not want to do much on the introduction, so I think we can quickly go to what we actually need to do. So let me switch my screen to Anaconda. So again, I hope everyone was able to get to this screen, but for you, yours should be at base root. I hope everyone was able to get here. Okay, I will take that as affirmation. So, okay, so we're going to launch Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Notebook previously was known as IPython Notebook. So if you come across IPython Notebook somewhere, don't get confused. IPython is just Jupyter Notebook. You can use Jupyter Notebook or Jupyter Lab, but Notebook is definitely a much better option. So launch Notebook. And when you launch Notebook, it should take you, where is it? And when you launch it, it should bring you to an almost similar page. So I hope everyone is here.
I am.
Okay, so Jupyter Notebook, the kind of files that you will be working with are not files that are going to be opened by any other application on your laptop. So any of the files that we're going to be creating in class, you're going to have to open them through Anaconda. So what you're seeing here is actually what is the directory on your laptop. For example, desktop is my desktop, documents is my documents in my file explorer, there's downloads. I think I can just show you something. For example, there's nothing much on my desktop. Let me look for something else. For instance, documents. These are all the documents that are actually on my laptop. So in the event that maybe I have downloaded a notebook from someone else and I'd like to open it, I will have to come here. This is just the tree, the usual tree, just like File Explorer. If you're using Mac, I don't know what it's called. So, but basically this is just the File Explorer that you have on your laptop. So if you want to access anything, maybe you've downloaded something, it's likely to come under downloads. Like for me, you'll see that the notebooks that we're using, the file extension is this the extension is this IPYNB. So any files that have the extension IPYNB, you're going to have to open them through Jupyter Notebook. However, that is if you want to access something that is on your laptop. If most of the files, we're going to be able to create them within Anaconda. So they will be stored on Anaconda. If you want to access it on your laptop, you will have to download it. I'll show you that in just a bit. So I think the first thing to do would be create a folder. It will be easier to create a folder so that you can put all your things there and they're not just scattered everywhere. So it's a bit easier to find that. So how you do that is you come to here, come to new. It's going to ask you if you want to create a new Python 3, a file, which is the notebook, or you can create a text file, a folder, or a terminal. So for us at the current moment, we're interested with a folder. I have a couple of things in here, sorry, but it should come under the title untitled folder. Here it is. So untitled folder, you can click on it and rename it. For this, I think I will name it. You guys are cohort 9, right? Okay, I think it's cohort 9. So yeah. So everything that we're going to create, it's going to fall under cohort 9. So it's going to be a whole lot easier to get your files, you know where they are. So yeah, go into that folder. I hope everyone, we're okay with everyone till there. Right, so now now that we're within our folder, we can start creating our files. Same thing, we come to new. And then now we're interested in creating, as you can see, it's create a new notebook with Python 3. Python 3 is the version of Python that is going to use. So with Python 3, that means it's going to have the updated functions, etc. So we're yeah, Python. So just as we renamed the folder, you can rename your notebook from here. Just click on Untitled and it's going to bring the rename. For this, I think I will just name it Introduction to Python. And yeah. So this is Jupyter Notebook. I think we can go through. Hi.
Could you repeat how you created the folder in the first instance?
Okay. So I hope you're here. So if you want to create anything new, be it a folder, be it a file, be it anything, you come to this new and it has a drop down, meaning there's a couple of options in it. So you can either create a notebook, which is not what we're interested in at the current moment, a text file, a folder, or a terminal. I would prefer you create a folder first, and then you can put all your files in there so that you're a bit more structured, you know where to get what. So when you click on create folder, it should bring an untitled folder. For me, I have a couple of things, so you have to scroll down, but look for untitled folder. This is what has been created for you. And then you can click on that checkbox and it's going to give you some few options and you can decide to rename it to whatever is relevant to you. So for me, I have named it Cohort 9 Intro to Python.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So go to within that folder that you have just created. Just click on it. Come here. Cohort 9 Intro to Python. Just click on it. It's going to, for you, it should be blank for now because you haven't created any file. So when you're within the folder, come to the same new button, click on it, but this time create a new notebook. That should bring you here. And let me just create a new one for you. And when you create it, it's untitled. It doesn't have any title. So just click on untitled and you should be able to rename it to something more relevant. I hope you're okay. Okay. So I'll give you a walkthrough of everything that you're seeing on the screen right now. So we have a file. From here, you can also create a new notebook from here. You can open a notebook from here. You can make a copy of the current notebook. You can save this notebook and start a new notebook if in the event you're finished with this and want to proceed. You can rename it. You can save and track point. This is basically saving the state that you are in so far. In case something goes wrong, you have somewhere to go back to. It's like a restore point for Windows. Revert to checkpoint. This is maybe you are running some code, something has gone wrong, so you would want to revert back to where you were before any problems happened. Print preview, I'm not really sure what this does, to be very honest. I think we're about to find out. Wow, no idea, I guess we'll find out in time. But aside from that, this is where it becomes important. So download as I've said, the files that we're going to create within Anaconda will remain within Anaconda. You won't be able to access them on your computer. So in the event that maybe you want to download this and send it to someone else, for example, when we finish with this notebook, I'm going to download it and send it to you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to download as, and I'm going to make sure I have chosen notebook with the extension IPYNB. You can also download it as a Python file, but not advisable as such. So I would advise, if you want to access this notebook outside Anaconda, you want to access it on your computer, you want to send it to someone, I would suggest come to File, Download As, and download it as notebook. But again, if you want to open it again, you have to open it through Anaconda. You can't just click on it when you're on the downloaded file and it will open. You have to open it through Anaconda. So edit will see it as we're writing some code. View, nothing too much. Insert just inserts a cell above or below. We're going to see that. Cell types, canal. This is I don't know if I would call it your interpreter or compiler for this environment. So this is where you decide, if you say interrupt, any code that was running is going to shut down. Restart is going to restart your whole notebook again. It's going to clear all output, etc., etc. Most of these things, we're mostly going to encounter them as we're doing stuff. For now, because we have a blank notebook, it would not make much sense. Widgets, nothing much, and then we come to help. Help is going to be very, very, very important to you. Something interesting is keyboard shortcuts. Again, for this, we'll also see it with time, no problem. For now, we can just go the long route, and then as you get more proficient, you get more comfortable, you can now move to using keyboard shortcuts. But if you prefer to just go right into it, here are the keyboard shortcuts, but we'll see them as we move along. So this saves and checkpoint. This saves the file and checks it and creates a checkpoint for it. In the event that anything goes wrong, you have a point to revert back to. This inserts a cell below the selected cell. Currently, I only have one selected cell. So if I say insert below, it's just going to do exactly that. It's going to insert a cell below the selected one. Cut. The scissors cuts a selected cell. So a selected cell is what is in blue, as you can see. It has this blue outline, the blue border. So if you select cut, it just cuts it. This copies the selected cells. Again, copy selected cell is the cell that has the blue border around it. So that pastes it, as you can see. This moves a cell up or down. Now that they're blank, you might not be able to see. We'll see that with time. Run is what we're going to be using to run a cell. And the beauty about Jupyter Notebook, as opposed to other environments and programming languages, if you're familiar with programming, with other languages, you have to execute the code as a block. So debugging is very stressful in that you don't know at what point the problem was caused, etc., etc. So with Jupyter Notebook and Python, you're able to run your code line by line, which makes debugging that much simpler. And this is the button that we're going to be using to run the cell. So the stop interrupts the canal in case maybe you are running some code, it's taking too long, or you can see something is maybe it's going to crash. You would maybe interrupt the canal. Restart the canal. Again, this is maybe in the event that something goes wrong with the code. So this restarts the canal, then reruns the whole notebook. This is going to be relevant if you have some code there. And then within these cells can be several different types of kinds. So by default, they're code. So because we are coding, so by default, they're code. However, they can be markdown, row and be convert and heading. I mostly use markdown and heading. So markdown and heading, this is when you want to make some notes within your code. Maybe you've gotten a function from somewhere, and if you're going to try explain it to somebody, you would rather have some notes to refer to. So for example, if I convert this cell to markdown, if I type something, maybe like a heading, introduction to Python, and then after that I just run the cell. It simply just outputs exactly what I put into it, and this is not interpreted as code. So this is just notes. The compiler doesn't care about it, so you can really just put your short notes in there. If you there's markdown, there's a heading. So a heading gives you a bit more control. It's like, it's actually, yeah, it's really that, it's a heading. So for example, if we say Python, then you run it, see, it becomes a heading, and there's different levels to it. The more, what are they hashes? The more hashes you add, the smaller the text becomes. So as you can see, it's become a bit smaller. You add another one, it becomes a bit smaller, but even just as it is by default, just heading one is fine. This is just fine. So yeah, this is how you're able to make some notes within your notebook so that it's not just code, you might get lost in it. This is to create some breaks. You're able to understand what you're doing with your code. Yeah, I think, yeah, this is not necessary. So I think that's what, yeah, that's basically Jupyter Notebook. The rest of it is now getting into preparation. So I think we can get started. Sorry, we can just do that. So I don't know if any of you were able to download the resources from lab.predictive analytics. But if not, this is part of the resources. So if you go there, you should be able to get this notebook. However, we'll go through it so that it's going to make some sense. This is the order in which we're going to go through these things. So the first thing we are going, wait, before we even get into this, I hope no one is lost. Everyone has been able to create a file. Any questions so far? Right. So I come to, all right, so we have our notebook. First thing we are going to do, is go through data types. So just as in other programming languages, we have several data types in Python. So data types is basically the type of data that you're storing. For example, if you're storing a customer purchase history, if you have something like price, price is going to be stored as an integer or as a float, which is very different from how you would store the name of the customer, which will be stored as a string. I'm hoping that this is making a bit of sense because most of you seem to have some backgrounds, but let's just get into it. So for example, if you're working with numbers, just 1 minute. If you're working with numbers, so to be able to keep track of what is happening in my notebook, I can come here and put this as a heading. So the very first thing that we're going through is numbers. And then you run it. So yeah, this is the very first thing we're going through. So we can do some very simple arithmetic so that this makes some sense. So for example, how to do addition. So again, come to heading. We can maybe number this so that it's a bit easier to work with. So as you can see, we have addition. So for example, we want to do 1 plus 1. The plus sign is basically what does the addition. So it's as simple as that. Say 1 plus 1. When you run it, it gives you the output 2. Kindly please follow along as we're doing this so that the notebook I'll have at the end of this is the same notebook you guys are also going to have. So please, can we do this together? I hope this 1 plus 1 was nothing too difficult. Has everyone been able to do this?
Fiona,
Uh-huh.
you can ask someone to just randomly share their screen.
Yeah.
And then you can give instructions they put there. Then I think we can be going around, eh? So
yeah, much better actually. Sorry?
Excuse me. I had disconnected a little bit, so would you kindly go back to numbers?
Numbers.
Yes.
It's okay, we've just begun. So the first thing we're going to go through is numbers. Numbers and some very basic arithmetic operations that you can perform on numbers. So the first thing we're going to go through is the addition of numbers. So I've just done a very simple 1 plus 1. If it's addition of numbers, the plus sign, just as usual, is what is used for addition. So 1 plus 1. And then after you do that, you make sure you select run so that you can get your output.
I meant from changing the heading to numbers.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so just go on a cell, come here. There's code. It's by default it's code. That is what you can already see. Mark, if you convert it to Markdown, it's going to give you this the smaller text. So I prefer to use heading. It pops out a bit more and makes it a bit easier. So it does that automatically for you. Just say okay, and then after that, click run. I hope you're okay. So I'm just going to move by the list I can see here on participants. First person on here is Gordon. Gordon, are you ready to do a 1 plus 1? Very, very, very simple.
Yes, I am ready.
All right, you can share your screen. There's a green button at the bottom, share screen, just use that.
Okay, just let me know once you're able to see.
Yeah, okay. So on cell 4, kindly convert number, come to code. Yeah, please do that so that you're not seeing an error. Heading.
Okay.
Run. Yes, much better.
Great. Okay. That's okay.
Yeah, so I hope that's clear. It's very simple because this is just it's an introduction. Of course, as we go a bit further into the lessons, you're going to see the 3 plus 7 is going to be something else that's so big plus something else that's so big. But you just need to understand very basically what works. So addition of numbers is as simple as that. Gordon, kindly stop sharing your screen. There's a red button at the top, stop share. Thank you. So we come back here. Yeah, so that was addition. I hope that was simple enough. After addition, we can do subtraction. So subtraction, again, very, very simple. The only thing that you would have to be careful about is not to use an underscore in the place of a dash. So subtraction is, again, very, very simple. Say 10 minus 3. Very simple. So this is it's the dash. Make sure you don't press shift, because it's going to give you an underscore, which is going to be an error. So just 10 minus 3, you run it and it gives you your output. Is that okay? Let me choose someone. The next person on my list is Kevin. Kevin?
Yes, Fiona. Let me share my screen.
Okay.
Are you able to see my screen? I got lost somewhere.
It's okay. We can actually just keep going till where. So the first thing you would do is, maybe you can name the cell. You can convert the cell to a heading. You can call it numbers so that you can follow along with what. Just click OK. So get there. Type numbers. And then click run. Okay, you can convert it to heading again so that you can know what you were doing for what cell. So the first thing we did was addition. I think you can do that a bit later. So for now, kindly do subtraction. Yeah, heading, click on it, click on heading. Okay, you can give it a certain number so that you're able to work along. For us, we're number 2 because it's subtraction. So you'll know you've missed 1, which was addition.
So I key in any number.
Yeah, but any number. Yeah, any number is okay.
And run.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's going to be a heading. It has nothing to do with your code. That's okay. Yeah, click run. Okay, so are you willing to do for us subtraction?
Okay.
So yeah, so by default, your cell is code, so you don't have to convert that into anything. So just think of some 2 numbers that you would want to subtract. Any 2 numbers. Yeah, and then click on run. Yeah, I hope that was simple enough.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. Okay. So kindly stop sharing your screen. There's a green, sorry, a red button, thank you. So after subtraction, we can move to multiplication. Again, come here after you do heading. Okay, make sure you run it. So multiplication, this is multiplying 2 numbers. The multiplication sign that is used for us, we use the asterisk. The asterisk is the star. So for me, I would access it using Shift 8. I don't know what number it's on for you, but it's the asterisk. So for example, 10 by 2 should give me 20. This is what is used for multiplication, just 1. So the asterisk. The next person on my list, kindly start getting ready, and it looks like it is Victoria.
Okay.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, it's okay. Can you do for us a multiplication?
Where am I sharing my screen?
Yeah. Go to the bottom, share screen.
Oh.
Yeah, wow.
It's shared.
Yeah, it has.
Okay.
So kindly just do one more example. Just think of any two numbers.
I multiply two numbers.
Yeah, just, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good. And I like that you're putting spaces between your characters. The spaces don't mean anything at all, but I prefer them because it makes your work look neater. For example, you can see her cell 2, her cell number 2, and her cell number 3. It looks a bit neater. When you put the spaces, it looks a bit neater, but the spaces are not an issue. So if you want to put them or not, that's fine. Okay, so multiplication done. Kindly stop sharing your screen. Okay, so next thing we go to is division heading. Okay. So for division, we use is it a back or a front stroke? I think it's a front one. Let me show it to you, and then you're going to tell me which it is. So say 12 divided by 3 should give me 4. So anyone who can tell if is this a front stroke or a back stroke? To be very sincere, I'm not very sure, but I know this is what you're supposed to use. If anyone is sure, kindly let me know. Forward slash. All right. Thank you so much. I get confused between those two. Thank you. So let me also, if you would like to put some comments next to your code as opposed to having it as a heading outside the code, you can use hash. For example, here I will write forward slash for division so that I will not get confused later again. And the best part about it, when you run, it's not part of your output. So this is purely just for you. What you need to do is have this hash before whatever you want to comment. We call this comments in Python. Yeah. So after that, there is now something very interesting. There's division and there's modulus. So modulus is the remainder that happens, the remainder that remains after division. So let me just, I hope it's spelled that way, or is it too used? Let me just check. I feel like it's too used. Yeah, thought as much. Sorry. So modulus is the remainder that remains after division. And we use, for this, instead of the forward slash, we're going to use the percent operator. So for example, if we're to divide 11 by 5, if I'm to do 11 divided by 5, I know my result is going to be 2, remainder 1, correct? So that remainder 1 is my modulus. That is what I am interested in. So for example, I can just run this too so that you can see the difference. You can see that 11 divided by 5 gives you 2 and a remainder of something. However, if I do 11 modulus 5, it gives me 1. So this 1 is what has remained after the division. So 11 divided by 5 is going to be 2 because of 10, and then you're going to have a remainder of 1. So modulus is when we're interested in what remains. So this one is a remainder after you've performed your division. I think I'll put that here. remainder after. Yeah. So I hope that makes some sense. Is that clear? Because I want to hand it to the next person. Who is Shem? Shem Ben. Shem?
Yes, let me start sharing.
In a bit, just 1 minute.
All right.
Yeah.
It is. You can see it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So just perform another random something, something. But first of all, before you perform it, kindly explain it so that we know what output we're expecting. Just think of any two numbers.
Okay, so maybe you can 21 divided by 4.
That's going to give you a fraction. It has to be a whole number and a remainder. So a bigger number divided by a smaller one.
Sorry?
A bigger number divided by a smaller one so that you have the quotient that is going to be the whole number, then you have a remainder. If you do 1 divided by 4, you're just going to get 0.25.
I said 21. 21.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so 21 divided by 5.
Yeah, you can do the division first and then the modulus so that you can see the difference.
Okay, so
what do you expect from the output as this for this cell? What would you expect as the output?
The output would give me a fraction that is on the decimal place.
Yeah, it should. You can just run it. You can run it.
There it is. So it's 0.2. So getting a modulus, that is the remainder after performing the division. That is you put you call it
the percent character.
Yeah, the percent character. So it's 21. I share divided by 5. So you run it. So you get 1.
Yeah. So what has happened is 21 has been divided by 5. So it 5 goes into 21 4 times, which will give you 20. And then there's a remainder of 1. And that is what the output has given you. So that is modulus. If you hear modulus, don't get confused with division.
All right.
Okay. I hope that's clear to everyone.
Yeah, okay.
Kindly stop sharing your screen. Thank you. So, okay. So with basic numbers, we're done with very basic numbers. So now we move to a different data type. I think I should. Okay, I'll correct that a bit later. So the next data type that we shall move into is strings. So strings are a series of characters that have been put together. For example, your name is a string because it's several letters or characters that have been brought together to create one giant thing. So let me name this so that we know where we are. So we have strings. So what we do with strings, what characterizes strings rather, is the use of quotes around them. We've not used quotes with these other ones because these are what we call integers. And for this one, the compiler is able to understand that this is a number, so do this for this number. However, as a string, because you're the one who's creating that string, it's a very random compilation of random characters. You have to put it in a way that the compiler is going to understand what you're trying to type it. So how we do that with strings is the use of quotes. And you can either use the single quotes or you can use the double quotes. For Python, it really doesn't matter. You can use this or that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have any difference in the output. So for example, if I use, actually, let me just write this. You can have single quotes. If I run this, just gives me that output. it's going to give it to me exactly as it is. So this way, I also know that what I have passed as a string is not going to be interfered with by the compiler. So exactly what I put in is exactly what I'm going to get out. So from here, you start seeing with code, it's a lot of garbage in, garbage out. If you give it the wrong string, it's going to give you back the wrong string. So keep that in mind. Strings are not going to, whatever you've written in there, whatever information is in there is not going to be messed up with by the compiler. So garbage in, garbage out. Be very careful of that. So we have single quotes, or we can use the double quotes. So you can see the output is the same. It doesn't have any difference if you use the single ones or the double ones. However, if maybe you want to write a string that contains maybe an apostrophe within it, say it's raining outside. So you can see here, you're likely to run into a problem, and even the interpreter is giving you different colors, telling you that there's something wrong. As you can see, it's almost interpreting it as if the string is starting from here. You can see that it started becoming red, like these other ones from here. So for this, it becomes a bit necessary to use the double quotes so that for this, the single apostrophe is not is interpreted correctly. So as you can see, you now have your output and it still has the apostrophe. Basically, that's it. But apart from that, if you're not worried about an apostrophe or anything of the sort, double quotes or single quotes, either is fine. So I will choose the next person on here that I can see, and that happens to be Joy. Joy?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Hi. Hi. Yeah. Can you do a string? If possible, maybe just print out your name. You can just type out your name. My name is Joy. Yeah.
Are you able to see my screen?
Not yet, not yet. There's a green button at the bottom, share screen. Yes, yes.
You're not able?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, let me just delete this. So if I do that, as you see,
you can try run it, see if it's likely to give you an error. Exactly. As you can see, it's already telling you that something is wrong. So you know that you have to correct it. And at least for here, you know what you have to correct. So kindly do it. Oh, so I think I forgot to mention the beautiful thing about Jupyter Notebook, you can run a cell again and again and again. So you can either decide to do it on a new cell, or you would have just rerun cell 19 again, but it's okay. So as you can see, there's the double quotes around the string that has an apostrophe in it. That way the output still contains the apostrophe and the whole string. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, you can stop sharing your screen. Thank you. The next thing we're going to do is, okay, now that we're on strings, just a bit, introduction to Python, where is it? So we're going to do something called variable assignment now that we've looked into strings. So a variable is basically a memory location. Yeah, basically it actually is a memory location. So in the event that you maybe have a large, maybe you're looking at customer purchase history, and then you were looking at the prices of things that they were able to buy. So if you're looking at price, you're likely not to be able to remember each price individually. So instead, you would rather assign it to a simpler, you'd rather do it in a way that accessing it is going to be much, much simpler. So that is where variable assignment comes in. So a variable is just a name that points to a memory location, and it can be anything, any name that you want it to be. So for example, I can just name this var, which is short for variable. So, and then I'm going to create just a random list of numbers. Yeah. So let's say, for example, this random list of numbers was the prices that the customer was able to buy some goods at. However, I'm not in a position to remember all these things. I'm not able to remember all these things individually. And even if it's not individually, just sitting down and try to remember this customer bought this, this bought this, this bought this, that becomes a bit tricky. So what I will do, however, what I will do instead is assign that data to a certain name, which is going to point to a certain memory location. That way, anytime that I need to access that data or I need to reference it, I just need to remember the name, and then the name is going to point to that memory location, and then I'm going to be able to access that data. So that is what is happening here. And the assignment bit of it is this equal, because what we're saying is what is on the right side of the equal sign, which is this, is to be put into what is on the left side of the equal sign. So for instance, if I run this, just 1 minute. No. So when I run that, for now, I'm going to show you how to see the output. But for now, what has happened is all this list of numbers has been put into a variable named var. So anytime I want to access any of these numbers, I just need to remember that I stored it in var. That way, it's going to be a whole lot simpler for me to be able to access and remember this data. So if you want to see the actual output, you would have to now call the variable, and calling the variable is simply just typing it out in a cell and running the cell. So yeah. So anytime I need to access any this data, I just need to call var, and it's going to give me that data. Before I hand it over to someone, there's a few rules to how variables are named. As much as it could be named anything, there's still a few rules so that the naming is a bit conventional. So we have, for example, we have, okay, let me just write them here. Let me convert this to Markdown. So we have camel case notation. I'll show you in a bit what these are. There's camel case notation. There is, I think, Pascal case notation. And we have snake case. So, sorry, I think it will be better to number this. So camel case notation is about, okay, let me just do it so that it makes some sense. Camel case notation. So if the camel case notation, this is maybe when you're trying to, your variable name is maybe a very long name, maybe something like customer purchase price. So if I'm to write something like customer purchase price, as you can see, it's not very visually appealing. You're struggling to read what's going on. So a better way to handle this is now this ways of naming. So the first thing we have is camel case notation. So camel case notation, what happens with it is the first letter of the variable is a small letter. And then every other word that comes into this variable name is going, the first letter of it is going to be in uppercase. So for example, you can see this would have been camel case notation. These are the 3 words that are making up my variable name. So what I will do is camel remains as the first letter of camel remains as a small one. Then case has is uppercase, and then notation for N is also in uppercase. So that's very much okay. So let's say it goes to 1. If you want to see it, oh, sorry. So if you want to see it, you call it yeah, so you can see that the variable name, the variable still holds very simple data. However, you can see camel case notation as opposed to this customer purchase price is a whole lot easier to read. Yeah, it's a whole lot easier to read. So if you're not going to use camel case notation, also you can use any of them. It's all up to you, whichever feels much more comfortable, whichever is visually appealing to you, you can use it. So Pascal is just the opposite of camel with just a bit of a difference. With Pascal case notation, every word that makes up the variable name, its first letter is in uppercase. For example, instead of a small p for Pascal, it would be capital P. So Pascal case notation, we can make this hold 2. So you run that, and then to see what it's holding, Pascal case notation.
Excuse Fiona.
Yes.
That is the case up there. I'm getting an error. So what's the problem? That is right.
For what?
Camel case
for
notation.
camel.
Pascal snake case.
Let me kindly share your screen.
All right. Okay, this one. So writing this one, you can see.
Sorry. I converted this to a markdown. If you did not, yes. Convert it, come to code, go to code where you can see code and the drop down, convert it to markdown. Sorry about, I might have, yeah. So then now, let me continue sharing my screen. So, okay, that's fine.
Also, Joy,
what
had a question also.
Joy?
Yeah, it was the same issue, but I've converted it.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that, guys. This is a markdown. I converted it to a markdown. You will be able to see that the code cells have this, can see input, it has in and the cell number, in and the cell number. If it's a markdown, it doesn't have any of that. So there's camel case, there's Pascal, and then we have the last one, which is snake case. I think, let me put some notes for you here. Actually, I'll just format this a bit before I send it to you guys, so it has a bit more notes. That's okay. So with snake case, as opposed to using uppercase letters to be able to tell the number of words that you have in a variable name, alternatively, you can just use underscores. So underscore should be on the same button as your dash, the one that we used for subtraction. However, you're going to use shift to access it. So it's going to look like a dash that is at the bottom. It's at the same level as the bottom of the words. This is it. So it's shift and the button that has the subtraction sign. So what we do with snake case is you're just separating the words that make up the variable name with the underscore. So this will be snake case notation. Okay, Sham. Yeah, I realized you might have been a bit behind. So for camel case, so I hope you got about variable assignment. With variables, you can name your variable anything that makes sense to you. You're not limited to variable names, except for words that are very specific to the Python language, but you're most likely not going to be naming your variables that. However, if you encounter such, what is going to happen is, for example, you cannot name something is, because this is a keyword for Python. And if you type it, it's going to, you see, it turns green as opposed to these others that remain black. So if you're typing something and it's turning green, that will be a keyword for Python. So kindly don't name your variable that. So yeah, you can name it anything else. So yeah. And then now what we're doing with notation is customer. As you can see, I might decide to name my variable this, but it's not very appealing. So there are some rules to how you can name your variables so that even other programmers can be able to understand your code. So we have three of them. We have camel case notation, we have Pascal case notation, and the snake case notation. So for camel case, what happens is you probably have several words that are coming together to be your variable name. So with camel case notation, for the first word, it's going to remain as a small letter, as you can see here. And then the next word, the first letter is going to be a capital letter, and also for the next word, it's going to be a capital letter. For me, camel case notation was to be camel case notation. So you can see C for camel is a small c, case for notation is capital C. I mean, case, yeah, and notion for N for notion is capital N. So that's basically camel notation. Pascal case notation is just slightly different from camel case. So for Pascal, it's just that every word, the first letter is going to be capital. So you can see P is capital, C is capital, N is capital. So yes, and then for snake case notation, instead of using the capital letters, we're just going to use underscores to separate the various names. So underscore is at the same position as what we used for subtraction, but you're going to access it using shift. This is
Question.
Underscore, this dash.
Are they case sensitive, the variable names? So for example,
yes.
if I use Pascal and Camelto, will they be different variables?
No, they will not be different variables. Yes, actually they will be. Camel case notation and camel case notation. These are two different things. Python is case sensitive. Thank you for bringing that up. So you have to be very careful with your case. So if I am to decide that these are to both hold the same data, I'm going to get some errors, because camel case with a capital C at the beginning and camel case with a small c at the beginning are very, very different things. So if you're going to pick one and stick with it throughout. Otherwise, you're most likely to end up with some errors. Thank you for bringing that up. So snake case notation, sorry? Oh, okay, sorry. So snake case notation, we just use the underscores. Sorry?
I'm a bit lost. Above line 16, camel case notation, is it a code or?
No. This was just an example I was showing you. We can cut this down. No.
Oh, okay.
I was just trying to show how a long variable name might not make some sense, and it's just not visually appealing, so that we get into the notations of how to name your variables properly.
Okay.
So snake case notation, we just use underscores to separate the words, and then you just do. So I think for this one, who would want to do it, Charlotte? No, let me just complete the first round of everything was to be done. The next person on my list is Trevor.
All right.
Just do some random variables using the 3 naming notations so that you're able to see the difference.
Okay. Sorry, just give me one moment. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want for me to use all 3
You can just use
notations
all
or just one?
here. Just do all 3 so that we can move to something else after this.
Okay.
Yes, that's very good. It's not conventional to start if you're not going to use Pascal notation, it's not advisable to start your variable names with a capital letter. So yeah, if you're going to use the underscore, that is the snake case notation, start it with a small letter. Yeah, that's very good.
Okay. I also have a question. So I had accidentally downloaded both packages for Python, and I opened 2. So if I open 3 next time, will I be able to access this file?
Yes, you will. Yeah, you'll still be able to. It shouldn't be much of a difference. It's just that the Python interpreter is going to be using Python 3 instead of Python 2, but that has nothing to do with you. That's a problem with Anaconda.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
The keyboard shortcut to run command. Okay. I did not think that you would ask for that in the first lesson. So as opposed to clicking on run, what you would do to run a cell is shift and enter. So for example, now that we're using Trevor's screen, you can just call any one of those variables that you've created. For example, new, just type the variable as it is so that you're able to see the data that it's holding. So as opposed to clicking on run, do shift and enter. I've sent it on the chat, shift plus enter, yeah. So you can see that you've ran the cell, and by calling the variable new, you're able to see the data that is holding, which is 6. Okay, I think that's good. We can now proceed. So we can now do something a bit different. We can now do printing.
Fiona.
Yeah.
Just before you continue to a new thing,
Mm-hmm.
This is Molly. As I as the user, my name doesn't appear. But then I noticed
Uh-huh.
my screen kind of got stuck. I don't know if I could share so you could see. So I've not done most of this.
Share it for sure. Share it.
And,
We see what's up.
Yeah, because I thought I would waste a lot of our time. So that's why
kindly just share it so that we can see where the problem is, and then at least you'll be able to follow through. I know right now you're not even following because your mind is on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just share it first. We sort that.
Are you able to see it?
Not yet. There's a green button at the bottom. Share screen.
I've done that.
Oh yeah. Okay. Just in a bit. It's loading.
So when I launched, it kept on loading and it's still loading. So I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if it's my connection or it's my computer that is slow.
No connection. It doesn't need internet connection. So what happens when you click on launch?
It still loads up to now.
It's supposed to I think I forgot. It's supposed to open in a browser. So if you're using
on the browser, it's still loading. I don't know how else.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still loading.
Kindly try launch Jupyter Lab, the one that is next to Jupyter Notebook.
Okay. Okay, so
there's Jupyter Lab right to the left of Jupyter Notebook. Try click launch on it. To the left.
Okay.
Jupyter Lab is an alternative. Okay, not an alternative. It's very similar to Notebook, just very few differences. So if Notebook is not working, Lab should be okay.
Okay. Okay, then I guess we'll just continue. I'll do that in the back end.
Okay. So for Kevin and Joy, once you assign a variable, once you assign some data to a variable, you now have to call that variable in another cell so that you're able to see the output. The camel notation, camel case notation equals to 1. For that won't give you any output. What has happened is that assignment. What you told it to do is just put this data in a variable. That's just all you've told it. You've not told it you want to see the variable. You've not done anything of the sort. So if you want to see the output of that variable, you have to go to a different cell, type out the name of the variable exactly as in the cell above, and then run that cell and you'll be able to see the output. Molly?
Yeah?
Kindly stop sharing your screen. There's a red button at the top. Stop share.
Okay, sorry for that. Okay.
Kevin and Joy? Have you been able to run the cells and see some outputs? You have to call the sorry, let me share my screen. You see here, when you've done this, you've just told it, put this data here. You've not told it you want to see what is happening. So if you want to see what has happened, if you want to see what has been held in camel case notation, you now have to come to another cell, type it exactly as it is here, and then run this cell.
I'm not getting any difference.
Kindly share your screen.
Are you able to see?
You've converted the cell to a markdown.
Also, once I read,
all your cells are in markdown.
So I changed it back to code.
Yeah. Why did you? The only thing that we converted to markdown was the simple notes that I wanted to give you, so that I was not just talking. So the markdown was just for the camel case, Pascal, and the numbered ones. That will still give you an error from. Okay. From camel case notation equals to 1. Can you no, don't cut.
Oh, sorry.
From camel case notation equals to 1.
Yeah.
Click on it. Convert it to code. Same to the one below it. Yeah, so now you can run the camel case notation equals to 1. run the camel case notation equals to 1 first. Okay, then I'll run that one again. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I can see.
Okay. So again, you have to be very careful about the type of cell you're working in. It could be code, markdown, heading. So for markdown and heading, as I said, they're not interpreted as code. That's why you are not being able to see any output. You have to make sure that your cell is in code mode for you to be able to see output.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we now come to printing. So we've just been seeing output because we've been doing some very simple things. However, as you move along, you're going to notice that not everything that you're going to be passing to a cell is going to be printed, or maybe you just want to format how to print out something. So for Trevor, the only difference between Python 2 and 3 that you're likely to run into a problem with is this print function. So Trevor, I'll put you on hold for a bit. So for the rest, let's just follow through. So printing, we do this using a function called print. And if it's a function, it means it has this kind of brackets. So the difference between Python 3 and Python 2, in Python 3, print is a function, so it needs to have these brackets. But in Python 2, it was just a function. I mean, it was just a statement, so it doesn't necessarily need the brackets. So for Trevor, that will be the only thing that would be different, but let's see what's going to happen. So printing, say for example, here we're going to do something very simple. It's called hello world. This is usually the first program in basically any programming language. So we print again because we want to print a string. Remember, strings have to have quotes around them. So I want to print hello world. Then I run this. So yes, I think I'll show you. Let me show you something so that it's a bit. So you can see without the print statement, you still have the quotes around the string. However, when you use print, you don't have the quotes. So you can use print maybe when you want some output that you want to share with somebody, etc, etc. So we can cut that. So print is very simple, it's just that. However, if you want to print a number, you don't need to use the quotes. So like print to just that. If you, however, want to print a string, you have to make sure you remember the quotes around the string. So yeah, printing. For Trevor, try print without, just try print. Print hello world. For Trevor, try this. Tell me if it's going to run.
Yeah, it runs fine.
It runs fine, yeah?
Yeah.
For Python 2 and Python 3, as far as I'm concerned, that should be the very, 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 very major difference. However, when you open it next time and choose 3, just remember to add the brackets around after the print statement. That's just it. So printing, that was I hope that was relatively simple. I wanted to show you something else before I give it off to someone. Yeah, I see. So in Python 3, you need the brackets, otherwise it's going to give you an error. But that's something for another time. So now that we've done some variables, let me show you. So let's say age 45, name. So let's say, for example, you want to print, say for everyone in this class, everyone who's present now, we want to print your name and your age. So it would be very difficult to do this in, just let me show you. So it would be very difficult to do this for everyone who is going to be in class. That means you're going to have to come here, change this, say, to Timothy, and then you change this to some random number. And then for the next person, you have to come, change it, do it again. So that's going to be a bit tricky. So the best thing, something that we can use to do this is a function called format. So we can say my name is, just 1 minute. Okay, I'm sorry. So what you're printing is, my name is, as you can see, there's this parameter here, 1, and my name is, and then there's this parameter here. So after this, what we're going to use is a function called format. So what format does, also on Jupyter Notebook, there's some inline documentation. So as you run your cell with Shift Enter to get documentation, it's going to be Shift and Tab. So if you want to get the documentation of something, just make sure that your cursor is there. For example, I want to show you the documentation for format. I've made sure that my cursor is there. And then I Shift Tab about 4 times. With every time you Shift Tab, it's going to give you a bigger and bigger output. So just Shift Tab until you're comfortable with the output that it gives. So this is not such a good documentation, but it's going to be helpful to you later. Maybe for print, it will work. Yeah, so like for print, you can see it tells you. So for print, it gives you all the parameters that can go within the print function, and then it tells you what it actually does. So it tells you that print prints the value to a string or to whatever. So basically, it's telling you that it prints a value, it prints the values. So if you don't want to feel like if you don't feel like going on the internet to look at what something does, you can just simply come here, make sure your cursor is on what you want to look at documentation for, and then Shift Tab. I think let me use for documentation. For documentation, yes, Shift plus Tab. Okay, so what the format function is going to do is, so we're telling it format the string that we have just created, which is this, and then format. You remember we had this bit and we had this bit. So what is within this curly braces? We call this ones curly braces. This one's around brackets, these are curly braces. So what is within curly braces, we can put any value that you want in there. So for example, you can see dot format 2. So 2 is this, the name that you have given that position where you want to put some kind of data. So for example, format 2 equals to name. Name is what I have done here, and 1, which refers to this. Sorry, this is going to be age. So what I am now saying here is my number is what the variable that I have given to 1 in the format function is what is going to come here, and my name is 2. Whatever variable I have given to 2 is what is going to come here. So as you can see, my number is 45. So 45 is what has come here, 1. And you can see for 1, we assigned 1 to represent age, and our age from here is 45. So in the event that I wanted to do this for everyone in class, what I have to come changing is just here. I don't have to come change what is within the string. So let's say we change age to say 43 and say name to Peter. So anytime you make changes to a cell, and as I've told you, you can rerun a cell in Jupyter Notebook as many times as you want so that you don't end up having so many errors. Like for this, I've just gone to the cell, I've changed what I've had, and then I've had to run it again. But if you make any changes in a cell, kindly make sure that you run that cell again. So if I run that and then I run this, you can see that my output changes. You can now see my number is 43, which is my new number, and the name is Peter, which is the new name. So format, you're going to encounter format as you move along. But basically, this is how you can change the value of a string without having to necessarily keep changing the string itself. I don't know if that made sense. I know that might have been a bit much. So anyone who's willing to do it, yeah?
Line 30 is remind me, was it a code or is it a markdown?
It's a code. Any line or any cell that has this in and then a cell number, that's a code. As you can see for this one's, it's a markdown, and you can see it doesn't have anything here. You can see markdown here, there's nothing. And then for these others, the code, it has the in and then the cell number.
So to go to the next line, I have to run it or?
Yeah. If you run the cell, it automatically creates the next line. However, if you don't want to, you can create, you can insert a cell using this here. You can insert a cell below.
Okay, so.
Okay. Oh, snap. Oh, edit. Also, if you delete some cells by mistake, like I have done, you can come to edit and undo delete cells. However, this is the only undo that you can do with Jupyter Notebook. If you erased a code, I'm sorry, that's just it for you. So you have to be very careful with what you're cutting away from the notebook. So yeah, so for example, like here, I already have my output. I don't have to run the cell again, so I can just come and insert a cell below it. I hope that answers your question. So yeah. before we move,
question.
Who want, okay.
If now I added maybe email, will I now continuously put 1, 2, 3, and so forth to format?
Yes, and also, okay, there's a. Let me show you something. Control AC. So this is a better way because you're able to keep track of what goes where. Because if in the event that I change this, it still gives me the output. Again, remember, garbage in, garbage out. I've given it a wrong code, it's going to give me a wrong output. So as you can see, I have changed 1 to represent name. And here 1 is supposed to represent number. And then I have changed 2 to represent age or number, whichever you want to call it. And then, but this is supposed to represent name. See, I still get an output. However, I get a wrong output because I give it wrong data. So you have to be very careful about how you're passing them. You're still going to get output, but you're going to get wrong output. And this is a very good way to keep track of it. The 1, 2, 3, because if you do, this without the 1, you, sorry. Where is it? Sorry. So the other way to do it would be, the other option to do it would be, you don't give this place, or they're called placeholders. You don't give any names to the placeholders. As you can see, we gave this 1, we gave this 2. However, you can see here that I've not given it any placeholders. And then when I come here, I now pass the data that I want to be formatted into those placeholders. As you can see, my number is 43 and my name is Peter. This is because of the order in which I have passed them. If I pass them in the reverse order, I still get my output, but it's wrong output. So garbage in, garbage out. So I prefer this method because you have the placeholders, and with the placeholders, you're able to keep track of what goes where. However, you can also do this if you don't need placeholders, but you have to be very sure that the order in which you pass the parameters within a format has to be the order in which they're going to be passed. So the first one is going to be passed to the first placeholder, the second one to the second placeholder, etc, etc. And if we were to continue this, let's say we want to add email. And my email is, so I'll come here, and then I give it the placeholder 3, and then I come here,
Tafanya hiyo kitambo.
3, and then remember, now that you're passing an extra parameter, you have to make sure that email is there. Let me show you before I do that. So if I say this is email, it's going to give me an error that I have not defined email, and for sure I have not defined email. So what I will do is, what I did for age and name, I would also do it for email. So email, say, again, if you make any changes to a cell, and you can make any changes to any cell, remember you have to run it again. And then when you come here, you should now be able to, you can now see. So my name is Peter 1, which was name. And then, sorry, here, I think I was using this to show. So 1 is age, this is name. So you can see my number is 43, which is 1, and 1 is, the placeholder is supposed to show age. My name is Peter, 2 holds the name variable, and my email is 3, and 3 holds the email variable. So there you have your complete string. If you need to change anything, at least you don't have to come change it from here, you have to come change it from here. So this way you can make any changes to your data without affecting the string. And you can see when we're using print, it does not have the quotes around the string. So this is something that you can very easily go show someone like your boss or something if you're presenting something of the sort. Anyone have a question, and who would like to be able to do this?
Hi, Faith, I'm getting an error. Maybe I can share my screen. Show me where I went.
1 minute. Okay.
Let me know you're able to see my screen.
Where is this? My unexpected end of file while passing. All right. This is about a bracket. As you can see, when you started print, there was a bracket right after print. You have not closed this bracket. So you can see what this format is also a function, so it has its own 2 brackets. So you have to complete it with another bracket afterwards so that you close this print. So kindly just add a bracket at the end of that statement.
Yeah.
At the end, mwisho kabisa, mwisho kabisa, kabisa, kabisa.
Ah, okay.
So at the bracket, you see it has gone green with the bracket right after print. So that tells you that you've closed that whole function.
All right. It ran. So I ran it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Anytime you get that error, end of its EOF, unexpected end of file passing, just look at your brackets. You have to make sure you've closed all your brackets, etc. This is going to be a bit more relevant as we move. Okay, so anyone wanted to do the print? I think that was actually a bulk of the work. What we're doing after this is very, very, very simple now. Okay, I think I will just have to choose from my list. Amondi. Okay, who else has not talked? Victoria. Okay. You can just do a very simple print statement. You don't have to do the format. I know that can make a bit much right now. However, kindly look into it. So you can just do a very simple print statement. Share your screen, please.
Oh, okay. See the screen share.
At the bottom, there's a green button.
I think I've shared it already.
Yes. So the error you're seeing here, first of all, is because on cell 28, email is still a string. It's also a string. It's not a number. So you have to remember to put it within the quotes.
All right.
And then any changes you make to a cell, make sure you run the cell afterwards again. So run it. And then you can run cell 32. Yeah. So now just do a very, very simple print statement.
Oh. It's the same thing here. So do I need to define variables first and then I print them?
You don't have to.
Oh,
you can just pass a very random string within print. Yeah, so you can also do I am a student, but without the print. So as you can see, without the print statement, the output still has the quotes around the string, but when you use print, it doesn't have. So it makes it a bit more better to present with it. So yeah, that's it about print for now.
Okay.
Okay. Stop sharing your screen. So now we're going to move into some other kind of data type. So the other data type that we have is the other type of data that we have is a list. So let me call this, list. So a list is a Python data type that is able to hold Okay. So lists are a data type in Python. They are used to hold if you don't want, you're holding a collection. Yes, I think that's a better word. You're trying to hold a collection of data. For example, maybe you're trying to hold all the names of the people who are present at the current moment. I think that would be a good one. So how you do this is, again, you can assign it to a variable or you can just define it. However, it's good to assign it to a variable because it's going to promote the reusability of your code. If you don't assign it to a variable, it means that every time you want to access that data, you either have to declare it, and that if it's a long piece of data, that's just too much work. So I highly encourage putting them in variables so that you're able to reuse your piece of code. So for example, I can call this my list. Personally, I prefer to use the snake notation. So I just use underscores for my variable names. So something interesting about lists, different data types in Python are defined by different kind of brackets. So lists are defined by square brackets, and that is that kind of bracket. As we move along, you're going to see the different brackets and what they mean. So just keep in mind that for a list, they use square brackets represented by, yeah, so they're represented by square brackets. And then any data that you now want to put in here, again, if it's numbers, you don't need the quotes. If it's a string, you still have to have the quotes. And because you're now holding a collection of data, each element within this list is going to be separated from the other using a comma. So yeah, I think I can create a very simple list of a couple of people here in class. So there's me, there's Eric, there's Timothy, and I guess Alice. So anytime that I want to access this whole list of names, I don't have to start remembering who is in that whole class. I just need to remember that I named the variable my list. So when I run this, I won't get output for now, because all this does is the actual operation of assigning what is to the right of the equal sign to what is to the left of the equal sign. So if I want to see what is going on within my list, I just do that.
Hello.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That's fine. So this is, yeah, basically this is a list. There are several operations that you can perform on a list. There's several operations that you can perform on a list. For example, maybe you just want to get the first top 3 of people who are in the list, maybe the last 3 or some sort of that, or just access something within the list. So for that, sorry about that. Okay, so lists. So I will call these, I think the methods actually, okay, that's fine. So the first thing that you would probably want to do is check how long your list is. You want to check how many elements are within your list. So the function that we use to do that is len, which is basically length. So you're telling it, find the length of my list. And what it's going to return is going to be the number of elements within the list. So the length of my list, you can see it returns 4 because I have Fiona, Eric, Timothy, and Alice. It has 4 elements. So length returns the number of elements within the list. I hope that's simple enough. So far, any questions? Okay. You might want to look at the length of a list. Let me put this away from here. If you want to access a certain element within that list, maybe for example, let's say it was a sorted list. So there's the very people, maybe a performance list, and then there's the very people at the top who've performed really well, and there's the people at the bottom who performed not so well. So maybe you just want to get maybe the first person. So this is where it starts getting interesting. So Python is a zero index language, meaning that anytime you're going to be counting the positions of something, you're going to be starting from 0 as opposed to 1. So for example, Fiona is at position 0, not at position 1. So that makes Eric at position 1, Timothy position 2, Alice position 3. So that will come a bit later. So yeah, that's it. So let me just put that here. Python is a zero index language, so we can counting from 0. So you can see when I have the hashes, when I have the hash before when I have the hash before the code, it's interpreted as a comment, so it's not even output. So if I want to access the first element within my list, what I will do is my list. And then this is something we call, I think I should have started with that. This is called selecting and slicing. So this is selecting a certain element from the list, and maybe you want to get a subset of the list. So what we're doing is currently called selecting and slicing. So if I want to access the first element within my list, I will say 0. Python is a zero index language, so we begin counting from 0. So if I say my list 0, what I'm telling it to do is grab the element that is at position 0. And as you can see, that returns Fiona, which is the first thing in our list. If I wanted the next one, I will use 1. Sorry. So you can see the next one, which is Eric, is that. And my very last one is going to be 3 and not 4. As much as the length of our list is 4, that's the number of elements. My positions are always going to be length minus 1, because for length it starts at 1, but for elements position it starts at 0. So my very last element is going to be element 3 and not element 4, because I started counting from 0. And as you can see, the last thing that was in my list, Alice, is what is here at 3. If you pass 4, it's going to tell you list index is out of range. I know that might be a bit tricky to understand at first, but any questions? So can I pick someone to do this? Okay, let's see who is here who has not talked. Molly is a bit tricky right now, so I don't know if we start it all over again. Victoria. Victoria.
Yes.
Have you demonstrated something?
Yeah, I did, but I can still do.
Ah, okay, perfect. So just create a list. Create a list first. Everyone kindly create the same list that she will, because I'll now pick someone else to do the selecting for it.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to create a list. So that is my list. I call my list to give me the elements that I've listed. So there I have my elements. And now I'm going to select number 3.
So before you select number 3, what do you expect your output to be, so that you're not just depending on the interpreter to give you what you're after? If you want to get the element 3, what output do you expect?
I'm expecting a 4 because it starts counting from 0.
Sorry?
I'm expecting the length of my list to be 4.
Okay.
It starts counting from 0, so I can show the length of my list.
Okay.
So there we have 4 elements.
Yeah.
Okay, I can select 3.
So before you run it, what do you expect to be the output?
I expect my output to be Lesotho, the last one.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So there I have my number 3 in my list.
Yeah. So I hope everyone has got that so far. Okay, so I think I'll assume everyone is okay.
My question, okay, it's a general question.
Okay.
My question is for the brackets, the different types of brackets that we're using. Do they have a specific purpose where, let's say, where for 3 I could be using a different type of bracket? Will I get a different result?
Yes. For selecting, when we're doing selecting and slicing, we use the square brackets. The same square brackets that represent lists is the same square brackets that are used for selecting and slicing. And this, you're going to encounter a lot of selecting and slicing. So kindly remember that. You're also going to use the square brackets for selecting and slicing. I'll make sure I put that in the notes before I send it to you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we are good with till there. Okay, kindly stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
Okay, so
Fiona,
something, yes.
So how many other sections do you have to go? I can see 1 o'clock is approaching.
Is actually we need to go through all the above. This is what has been indicated as intro to Python.
How many? You have how many to go?
Quite a bit to be very honest.
Okay, so maybe we can agree. You just conclude the next section, and then we take a break so that we resume from next weekend. Yeah. So this part, it's important that they get the concepts right.
Yeah,
so
and it's a lot.
Yeah, so I like the pace, and I'm sure they're picking it up slowly, so we don't need to bombard them with a lot. Huh?
Okay. Let me see what can be done. I think we can do lists. We finish up on lists, tuples, and dictionaries, and then we finish that.
Okay, so that will take approximately how many minutes?
It should take about 15-20 tops.
15, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So if everyone needs a health break, just say, so that I know you're working from home, but it doesn't really make a difference. If you need a break, just say. Okay, continue, Fiona.
Okay, so we have our list, selecting and slicing. One thing that I have forgotten, if maybe you have a very, 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 very long list and you would like the things that are at the end of the list and not at the beginning of the list, you can still access that, and you don't have to start from 0. you can start from the back of the list, but when you start from the back of the list, you're going to start counting from -1. There's no -0. So if you're starting to count from the back of the list, that is from your right-headed left, as opposed to left-headed right, you're going to start at -1. For example, if say this was a very, very, very long list and I just need the last element, I would do -1. It still returns Alice. So yeah, if I was to do, sorry, my list, it returns, let me show you. You can see -1 returns the very last element in the list. -2 returns the second last one. So basically, as you're counting from the back of the list, you're going to be counting from -1, and you're going to be counting from right-headed left. So for me, my very first instance in my list, if I was counting from the back, would be -4. I hope sijawapoteza hapo. It's usually a bit tricky to get through with that one, but I hope you're okay with that. So for now, we'll just do that. For slicing takes a bit more of time. So we can do that in the next session when you're a bit fresh, but it's based on selecting. So if you understand this selecting bit, slicing is going to be much, much, much simpler. So any more questions on lists before I continue? Okay. So we can go to the next thing, which is, I'm going to tuples. So tuples are the way lists are represented using the square brackets. Tuples are represented using the round brackets. Let me just check this here. So a very big difference between a list and a tuple is mutability. What this means is the ability to change the data within that list after you have already declared it. Again, there's still some few things we're going to have to look through lists, but that's okay, we can do that some other time. But for example, if I wanted to add, an extra name to this list, it's very, very simple to do that. However, with tuples are immutable, meaning they cannot be changed. Once you've already declared your tuple, unless you go to, I think it would be easier to show this with an example. So if I wanted to add something to my list, just 1 minute. If I wanted to add something to my list, I can use up on there. If I wanted to add something to my list, I'll show you this, guys. I'll show you next time, but this is just to show you. So let's say, sorry, the first name that has come to my name is Victoria. So, so you can see we have added another element to the list without having to come to my list where we declared it and adding it manually here. So lists are mutable. That means you can change the size or the values in the list using some functions. For example, append. I'll show you guys next time. So with tuples, what happens is you are unable to do this. So tuples are immutable. let me show you in just a bit. So tuples are, so I can create a very random tuple. Again, brackets, the kind of brackets you use are going to be very important. If say I do this, it's going to create a list, and that is not what I'm looking for at the moment. So you have to be very careful about the brackets you're using. So tuples are represented using the brown brackets. So can just pass some random things. So my tuple, and then I can call it. So yeah, you can see my output is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for tuple, if I can try the okay, this is not even what I wanted. Tuple. Okay, so we can still do slicing and selecting using tuples. It's the same thing. Python is a zero index language. So if you're counting from left going to right, you're going to start at 0. So if I wanted to access the first element in my tuple, it would just be my tuple 0. And you can see that gives me 1, which is the first element within my list. And then now in the event I wanted to change maybe a certain value within my list, within my tuple, let me show you with my list first, is likely to be much better. So if I want to change the value of an element in a list, this is how I would do it. Okay.
Fiona, you use the index position. So my list square brackets 0 and then
0. Yeah. Thank you for that. That's Eric. He's likely to take you through a lot through all this. So feel free to talk to him at any time. So for example, I know what is my list. What is at my position 0 for my list is, I know it's Fiona, as you can see from here. However, if I want to change this value, this is how I would do it. So you can see that Fiona has changed to Kamau. So you can see that with a list, it's mutable in that without having to go to where you declared the list, you can be able to change the values within the list. So we can now try to do this using a tuple so that you can see what I mean by immutability. Sorry. So I know what is my tuple at position 0 is 1. So say I want to change it to say something like 10. I'll receive an error. And the error is tuple object does not support item assignment. What this is telling you is that a tuple is immutable, meaning you cannot change the values within the tuple as you're moving along. If I wanted to change the value of 1 to 10, I have to come to where I declared my tuple, which is cell 61, and then change it manually, run it, and then now try to do whatever I wanted to do. So tuples, you work with tuples when you don't want to mess with the data that you have already passed within it. Again, data types, you're going to be working with which data type, whatever data type is relevant to you. So if you don't want any changes to be made to the data that you have, you can use tuples because they're immutable. Who wants to do something on tuples? So because with tuples, there's really nothing much you can do to change the list. It does not have a lot of methods and functions, but we're going to see that next time. So who wants to do something on tuples? Or I can just complete and then we finish up. We're really almost done. So after tuples, we have dictionaries. Dictionaries are a data type that store. Dictionaries are a data type that store data in form of key and value. If you have encountered JSON at any point, it's a very similar a very similar outlay. So it has the key and the value. If you want to access the value, you have to go through the key, but let's see how that happens. So there's a few things in here. Is it, okay, so we just use dict. Sorry. As you can see, it has turned green. This tells me that this is a keyword for Python. So this will not be something appropriate to name my variable. So I can just give it the full name, which is dictionary. So how we declare dictionaries are represented by curly brackets. I think it's important to notice the kind of brackets that I use. So dictionaries are represented by curly braces. And curly braces are those ones. So if you see curly braces, you're most likely dealing with a dictionary. So a dictionary, you have to pass it in a key and a value pair. So for example, I can use name as a key, then I can see that. And then also, just as in a list or in a tuple, all the elements within the dictionary are separated using the comma. So we can say that. And for dictionaries, the key value, so you can see name is going to be my key, and then there's a full colon. This shows that what is on the left of the colon is the key, and what is on the right to the colon is the value. So yeah, the full colon is very, very, very important. It shows that key value association. So key, full colon, value. Comma, you move to the next one. So for this one, my key is age. The full colon to denote that it's a bracket. And then because it's age, I want to pass it as a number. It's not a string. I don't have to use the square brackets. I think we can just do occupation. What do I love doing? Movies, whatever. Okay. Oh, snap. Eric.
Yes.
What is invalid syntax? What's this about invalid syntax?
Let me see. Oh, you don't need the dict keyword.
Sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
You don't need the keyword.
So dict is, okay, so that's fine, that's fine.
Yeah, you can just, that way.
Yeah, thank you. Diction. Also on Jupyter Notebook, in the event that you have a very long variable name or just something that's really, really super long, it has autocomplete. So for that, you're going to use tab. For example, I can start typing dictionary, and then I hit tab, and then it's going to give me everything within this notebook that has started with those letters or words. So if you're feeling too lazy to type a whole thing, you can just use tab. So for me, I've just done tab, dictionary, and yeah. So yeah, you can see dictionary, there's a name and age, occupation. So for selecting in dictionaries, we now don't use the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc, etc. So the reason for the others we use the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is because that's the only way that for those we're able to keep the order of what we're dealing with. For a dictionary, you've already given it very unique identifiers, that is the keys. So as a rule of thumb, your keys should be unique values such that no key is representing more than one piece of data, because you're going to get an error. So as opposed to using 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with dictionaries, we use the keys because they're already very unique to this dictionary. For instance, if I wanted to get the name Fiona, if I wanted to get, actually rather the element Fiona from this dictionary, I would do this not using the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Already, as you can see from the output on cell 71, it will be a bit tricky to count 0, 1, 2 with a dictionary, because this is one element, this is another element, and this is another different element. So counting the 0, 1, 2, 3 would be a bit tricky. So with dictionaries, when you're selecting, we use the key names. So dictionary, like for this, I would use name. Also, when you don't feel like for spelling errors, you might be really tired like I am right now, or you don't feel like typing, the tab is always going to come through. So as you can see, instead of here, if this was a list or a tuple, we would have passed a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. But with dictionaries, we use the keys. So if I wanted to get the age, dictionary, age, it returns 34. So this is selecting for dictionaries. I think I should put that here. Selecting for selecting for. So basically, this is, I think, what we can cover for now. This is as far as we'll go for now. There's still a lot to be done just within these lists, tuples, and dictionaries. However, you're going to encounter them as you move along. You don't have to learn everything like at once. There are other things you're going to learn as you encounter errors, which you will. So don't look at errors as your code is not running. Look at errors as a chance to learn. Errors within Python, especially in Notebook, they're awesome. It's always going to tell you the line where the error has occurred. And as you get more proficient with it, the errors are also going to get easier to understand. But more or less, they're usually very straightforward. It tells you where the error is and what the error is. This is very, very basic. Again, this is a data science class. We're just doing introduction to Python because the libraries that we're going to be learning, that is NumPy and Pandas, are built on Python. So you can't just skip to that before you understand the very, very, very basics of Python. So this is not a programming class, don't be worried. This is just to get the basics, because the libraries that you're going to be needing for your data science skills, NumPy and Pandas, are built on Python. So don't stress much about this. If you don't get the syntax, I promise you, you're going to get it as you use NumPy and Pandas, because they are built on Python. So for now, I think I can leave you at this. I'll try format this notebook to get a few notes in there so that it's a bit better for you guys. And then I will send it on your emails. Look for it in your emails in a bit. So for now, I think I will end there.
And to add on to that also, don't feel like you need to memorize everything right now. It's pointless to do that. The best thing is to just keep practicing, go over the notebooks, and also we link to the documentation of Python itself. So if you have any questions about what a particular command does, you can go to the documentation, and it's going to give you in greater detail what it does, what the different options are, and everything. But no need to memorize. Just so long as you know you can do something a certain way, then now you can refer to documentation to get now the specifics of how to do it.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Fiona. That was really awesome. So Fiona, have you taught before?
No.
Yeah. So I think just to encourage the class, this is the first time that Fiona is teaching. So just to show you the way it's actually very easy to learn Python. It just needs a lot of focus and dedication. Yeah. So she's been one of our students, just finished the first level a month ago. Yeah. So it's always good to learn from someone who's actually learned, and to encourage you that it's not something impossible. Yeah. So I noticed who had a challenge with the notebook. Is it you, Joy?
It's Molly.
Oh, Molly. Okay. Yeah. So just reach out in your personal time, but at least always try to walk the pace of the class. Yeah. So that we don't have to drag the other ones behind. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah.
Molly, did your Jupyter lab open, or is it also still loading like the notebook?
The lab opened, but I noticed challenges. I guess I'm gonna reach out to you offline.
It's okay. You can just reach out to anyone on the group. You can do it on the group or individually. You can reach out to me or Eric or Timothy or Alice. We should be able to help you.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So are there any remarks from anyone? I think we need to have each of you say something. How was the class? What did you expect? Is it the same or what your expectations were? I'll be happy to hear from each of you.
Okay, I'll go first. I just want to say thank you, Fiona, for that lesson. I think it's the simplest programming lesson I've ever had. I feel like I understood everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, that's good to hear. Okay.
I can go next.
Yes, please.
So I'm not disappointed. I mean, I expected hard stuff for a first time learner, and yes, true to it, it's been not so easy, but I guess I'm gonna keep up with it.
Good. Yeah, just practice, continue practicing and asking questions where you're not finding anything clear.
Cool.
Thank you.
I'll go next.
Yes, yeah.
I liked the pace at which Fiona was taking us through.
All right.
I think with more practice, we'll get to where she is or even better, and I look forward to the next class.
Good. That's a spirit. Thank you, Victoria.
I'd also just like to add something quickly.
Yes, Trevor.
With a background, I have a small background in Python, but I think Fiona, you led the class very well. It was very in depth, and it was very easy to follow as well. So thank you for that. I quite liked the lesson.
Yeah, good stuff, Trevor.
I think I would just like to reiterate what my colleagues have mentioned. It was very simple and clear in execution.
Yeah. Thank you, Gordon.
Yeah, thanks, Fiona. Well executed and simplified.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Sorry. So the class was engaging. I loved the session, and I'm looking forward to engaging with the other members also as we share maybe some assignments or a project that we do on the same. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, talking of assignment, Eric here, there's the exam portal that I had mentioned on the group. Some of you have already sent me your email addresses and I've registered you on that. So if you haven't done so, please send me your email address and I'll add you to it. And then you shall be assigned the exam assessment from today's lesson, which you can use now to practice over the course of the week.
Okay. So will I send you the email?
To my WhatsApp. I'll just put a message on the WhatsApp group and you can just sidebar me your email address.
All right.
Good. Who else have we not heard from? All right. Okay, thank you. I know we've kept you sitting for long hours. So if you always will prefer to have a break in between, just let us know in advance so that when we prepare the content, we put in like a slot of about 7 minutes of a health break for stretching. Yeah, but I think I'd like to thank you for your endurance and we look forward to having you next week. But let's keep the conversation going within the week. Enjoy your weekend and bye.
It was awesome taking you guys through all this. Keep practicing. See you next week. And stay safe. Sanitize.
Okay.